Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I am your host, Travis Fenn, the Shadow Master, Triple R's Executioner, Ricky Ray Rector from last week. I'm going to eat that slice of pecan pie he left, and this is episode 3 of Beneath the Shadows. I'd like to say happy Sunday to you. It's, September 15th now? Episode 3 coming up here. I just got back from being out of state in West Virginia to see New River Gorge, and in Virginia to see Shenandoah, a couple of national parks in the United States here. And that'll kind of tie into today's episode, as we will talk about another national park on the other side of the country in California. I'd like to start off by saying thank you for your ratings and reviews. They are appreciated, and the kindness that you express truly keeps me going every day. So thank you so much. If you haven't had the chance to rate or review yet, why don't you go and head over there after today's episode? Give me a 5-star rating if you like the show. Give me a review, maybe how you pronounce pecan or pecan or however you want to say it. Or if you hate the show, go on over there, give me a 5-star rating, and, tell me why you hate it. I'd love that. Thank you. Other than that, please follow the show on social media, including TikTok, Instagram, and Patreon. The name on those pages is Beneath the Shadows Podcast. That is all except for Patreon, and the Patreon name is just Beneath the Shadows. No podcast on it, but there's also a Gmail address with the same name if you'd like to send any personal updates, topic suggestions, anything of that nature. I would like to read some of those updates on air if people do decide to send them through often enough. Now, though, with that housekeeping out of the way, let's look forward to today's topic. Today on Beyond the Shadows, we will dive into the miraculous survival of a young boy following a devastating plane crash. We will follow him from takeoff, through his rescue, and to his life in the current day. Donnie Priest, the young boy I mentioned, had a heroic survival and inspirational recovery to follow. So, let's go down to the darkness, grab all the interesting details, and let's pull them out of the shadows. An incredibly interesting, awesome tale today that I'm ready to share. So let's head in. To start, we will look at Yosemite National Park, as the crash happened just outside the park boundaries, and park rangers would play a big role in Donnie's rescue. Yosemite National Park is a national park in the eastern central part of California. Known as one of the first national parks in the world, Yosemite National Park was established on October 1st, 1890, when President Benjamin Harrison signed a bill into law designating the area as a national park. It was the third national park in the United States, following Yellowstone in 1872 and Sequoia in 1890. Encompassing nearly 1,200 square miles, this national park is brimming with granite cliffs, waterfalls, giant sequoia groves, glaciers, and more. Designated as a UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization World Heritage Site in 1984, Yosemite is California's most visited national park, with an average of 4 million visitors or more, and is always in the top 10 most visited in the United States. Popular for rock climbing, Yosemite features a number of routes, including multiple on the El Capitan Cliff. A picturesque and beautiful land, Yosemite lies in nearly everyone's top 10 national parks to visit. And now, really quick, I'd like to pop over and just look at a couple of low-rated reviews for Yosemite National Park. Just from Google, nothing crazy, but let's talk about the first one here. The user is Michael Smith. These are all 1-star out of 5-star ratings. All the hikes are uphill and you're practically climbing cliffs. I got soaked by several incredibly large waterfalls just by standing at the bottom of them. Wow! No shit, dude. Anyway, he continues with, I wasn't told that I could take the cable car to the top of the mountains until after I left the park. There are so many picnic areas that you'll find yourself tripping over them when you're not looking. I mean, a lot of people visit, so maybe they do have a lot of picnic areas, but I don't know if that's true. I also haven't been, so hey, maybe it is. And all the hikes are uphill because there's a lot of fucking mountains and cliffs and shit. Yes, you're right about that, but it's kind of what you're there for, or to at least view that beauty from a distance. So we continue with the second person on here, Wendy LaRue, I believe is how you pronounce it. LARRIEU, 1 out of 5 stars again. The natural beauty of the valley is amazing. The 1 star represents the NPS, National Park Service, and the way that the way that they are mismanaging this amazing place. Get proactive with the bug kill before you have nothing left. Look into heli logging instead of letting all that good timber rot. And like, I get it in some ways, but it's the outdoors. There's gonna be bugs. It's just the way that is. And heli logging, they want to leave the timber to rot because it's the natural way things progress, I would say. Kind of good for the environment to let things do as nature does, some might say. Also, heli logging, I just can't imagine how much that actually costs just to, fly a fucking helicopter and spend all of that gas, that fucking air fuel and shit. It would be immensely expensive to do heli logging to get timber out of Yosemite when it's a national park, when you're supposed to leave nature as you find it. I don't know. I find it to be a very stupid review, but hey, not my opinion. None of these are my opinions, like I said. And now we'll pop to the last user here, JD Campbell. JD gives 1 out of 5 stars, just like the others. No punctuation, so it helps a lot with reading this. Never coming here again. There is a thing I saw. It was very tall and a pure black humanoid creature walking around the woods. Solid, JD. Solid. I'm happy you're still here. I mean, hey, that's a positive. I would have at least given it 2 just because you didn't get fucking killed by this pure black humanoid creature walking around the woods. That's very tall. Some cryptids and stuff hanging out and doing their thing. All right, with those couple of reviews done and out of the way, we will move into the topic today. We'll talk about Donnie Priest, as I said before, and let's dive in, yeah. We will mainly focus today on a boy named Donnie Priest, as I had mentioned before, who was traveling with his mother and stepfather during the holiday season between 1981 and 1982. At just past 3 p.m. on the afternoon of Sunday, January 3rd, 1982, Donnie Priest, his mother Lee, and his stepfather Ronald Vaughn, I don't know why I paused there, Ronald Vaughn hopped aboard their small private plane, a Grumman American AA-5B Tiger, at Mammoth Airport in California. From the Aircraft and Owners Association website, Grumman Tigers are described as such. The Grumman Tiger is a big deal, even if it is just a beefed-up Traveler, which is another Grumman airplane. There's not another fixed gear, 180 horsepower bird made that can catch it. It can outrun one 200 horsepower retractable and almost match performance with 2 others. And this hot little number comes respectively equipped for $24,137, making it a very nice buy for the performance you do get and the maintenance problems you don't. This article was written in this little, I guess, description, not article, but little description, was written in 1975. So the $24,137, I did it yesterday. I don't know the exact. It's $144,000 something that would inflate to today. So let's get going on this. After visiting family in Oklahoma for the holidays, this was the last stop on their return trip home. A quick refuel and it was back to the sky. At 3:30 p.m., the single-engine plane rose into the air. Vaughn, the 38-year-old research chemist for Chevron, a moderately experienced private pilot, was in a hurry to get home to Orinda. It's in California, less than half an hour from San Francisco. He and his 2 passengers had to get back to their regularly scheduled lives the next day. Work for Vaughn and Lee and school for Donnie. Quickly enough, Donnie would fall asleep to the airplane's monotonous humming, while Lee and Ronald focused on the flight. The original flight plan, to fly the shortest route via the nearly 10,000-foot peaks just north of Tioga Pass, had been denied by flight control in Tonopah, Nevada, who warned that there was a jet stream over the Pacific Ocean and there was a massive snowstorm was coming together. So Ron decided instead to fly northward along the eastern edge of the Sierra Nevada mountains, and then cross closer to Reno. Flying into the turbulent maw of the storm, the plane wandered off course too far north, into a dead-end canyon. Vaughn radioed flight controllers that he had been being buffeted by violent downdrafts, Shortly after 4 p.m., Vaughn could be heard radioing again, saying he was losing altitude and could see the ground. Moments later, the radio fell silent. The airplane's last known location on radar was in the vast wilderness a half-mile north of Tioga Lake, about 2 miles outside the entrance of Yosemite National Park. The resulting snowstorm that blew in that afternoon would end up lasting nearly 3 days and would be one of the largest to date for Northern California. As wind, rain, sleet, and snow dismantled the area, rivers flooded, homes were destroyed, and trees were overturned, killing a total of 33 people. The storm became the most deadly natural disaster to hit this part of California since the 1906 earthquake. In Pacifica, 3 children died asleep in their beds when 2 houses slid down a hillside. Jesus Christ. In the Santa Cruz Mountains, a tsunami of mud buried the entire community of Love Creek, killing 10 people. Ronald, Lee, and Donnie had lost contact late Sunday afternoon, but the raging storm made aerial searches impossible. At this point, park officials reached out to backcountry rangers Chaz and Ann McQuarrie, I'm going to say McQuarrie, Macquarie, and Chaz is Chas. A couple spending their winter at a cabin in Tuolumne Meadows. Tuolumne? You might not pronounce the N. Tuolumne. Tuolumne Meadows, about 8 miles from the airport's last known radar location. The Macquaries gathered their snowshoes, organized their rescue packs, and set off into the blizzard to search for the plane through waist-deep snow. But they really didn't get far. Busting a trail through fresh snow that reached up to their hips, they exhausted themselves for a full day and only managed to travel a mile. They went back out the next day and tried again. They only got a little bit further. The snowy weather changed little on Tuesday, continuing to limit search efforts, but by Wednesday, the skies had cleared. Mono County rescuers drove a snowcat up the mountain. Yosemite Rangers and members of the Navy aboard a search and rescue helicopter surveyed the area of the plane's last known position. They couldn't find a single piece of evidence as to what happened to the plane. The aerial search area was expanded to at least 100 square miles on Thursday, but once again, the search proved ineffective. By now, it had been 4 days since the crash, and the odds of having survived both the impact and sub-zero temperatures were very slim, making it seem more like a recovery effort than a rescue effort at this point. Since the plane's emergency locator transmitter, designed to go off upon impact, hadn't been activated, Rangers struggled to locate the airplane on paper. Another search and rescue ranger, John Dill, was continuously poring over maps and collected all the information available. Dill The MIT-educated knowledge master of Yosemite search and rescue, YOSAR, an almost mythical figure in the field, is the inventor of highly technical methods to rescue injured climbers from vertical and even overhanging cliffs. John Dill might be someone we do an episode on someday. He's a pretty interesting dude, has a lot of experience with the search and rescue at Yosemite in particular. He's been there like 50 years or something like that. If he's still alive today, I couldn't find exactly if he is. He's somewhere between 81 and 84. I saw 2 articles. They were 7 years apart, but his age in them was only 4 years apart, so it varies. I couldn't find an exact birth date either. But the flight data baffled John. The plane's last known location was west of Mono Lake instead of east, as it should have been, according to the revised flight plan Ron had been ordered to take. Investigators speculated that Vaughn may have gotten lost and had tried to fly his way back to the revised flight plan's path. But interestingly, late on Thursday, they located data from Oakland flight control logs revealing that shortly after taking off, Ron had requested to fly his original route, which was denied, and he told them he was changing his flight path. So apparently he just, decided by himself to go against flight control and just go his regular intended route. He told them he was changing his flight path. He would now head the most interrupted path home, directly over Yosemite's Tioga Pass. Today, flight information arrives quickly on Google Earth or other digital maps, and there's a whole team of radar specialists to track a missing plane, John Dill said in an interview. Back then, I had no computer, so I had to manually plot the coordinates for the last few minutes of the flight path on the map, to try and guess what the pilot was thinking. For Dill, news of the revised flight plan changed everything. We were not searching for a plane traveling north to Reno that had gotten lost, but one that intended to cross the higher altitudes of Yosemite, explained Dill, who stayed up all of Thursday night plotting data, and by Friday morning had narrowed the search area to a thin strip of wilderness 6 miles long from eastern Tioga Pass north to Mount Conness? The previously searched area had been combed over on Wednesday, but intrigued and influenced by this new information, the search and rescue team returned on Friday, 5 days following the apparent plane crash. Late in the morning, a helicopter out searching was passing over the eastern slopes of White Mountain, an area it had searched several times before, when Ranger Jim Sano saw something. A shadow in the snow. A shadow on the snow. It was formed by the tip of the plane's tail. Only a few feet of the tail poked out of the fresh snow. The rest of the plane was invisible, completely buried. Things quickly moved into high gear. The team needed the Macquarie's expert mountaineering skills to access the plane. After obtaining both Ann and Chaz, who were waiting with skis, rope rescue gear, and shovels when picked up, the helicopter returned to the crash site. The team dropped the Macquaries off on a ridge above the plane, and Ann helped Chaz over the edge. Chaz reached the plane and began digging intensely. Then, when his shovel hit the window, he heard a staggered, distraught cry from the inside. It was 10-year-old Donnie Priest. He had lost over 10 pounds, and after 5 days of sub-zero temperatures, he was in shock. His temperature dropped 12 degrees below average to 84 degrees. Jesus Christ. He was severely hypothermic, his skin was ghostly white, and his lower legs were critically frostbitten. Donnie's mother, Lee, and stepfather, Ronald, had died upon impact, but miraculously, he was alive. As the helicopter lowered Chief Petty Officer Jerry Balderson down, the Macquaries extracted Donnie from the back of the window, from the back window of the airplane, and helped insert him into a harness, attaching him to the hoist line. As they did, Donnie lost consciousness. He came back a short time later in the helicopter, and Naval Flight Surgeon William Gooden was able to stabilize him until they reached a hospital in Fresno. There, Donnie met his father, Don, and stepmother, stepmother Kathy. He was surprised when I told him he had been in there for 5 days. He thought it had only been 2, maybe 3. He was even surprised by 2 members of the Oakland A's, pitcher Mike Norris and outfielder Ricky Henderson. Donnie was later transferred to Stanford Medical Center, where doctors were forced to amputate his incredibly frostbitten legs just below the knees. But 4 months later, Donnie was able to walk out to throw out the ceremonial first pitch at the Oakland A's season opener. And a few days after throwing the famous touchdown pass called the catch, Joe Montana took time out from his Super Bowl preparations to stop by and present Donnie with a Betamax VCR, a gift from the 49ers. I think that may have been when he was still in the hospital. I just kind of put that out of place there. But still got to meet Joe Montana. That's kind of cool. But both of his legs were lost, so that kind of sucks. Donnie would further recount about the ordeal. There was a sleeping bag I tried to cover myself up with, but I couldn't get it open. It was frozen. Donnie had tried to eat food from his mom's purse, but could not find any, and ended up eating snow as a water supply, but still was severely dehydrated as well. Less than a year after the incident, December 22nd of 1982, Donnie would sue Narco Avionics Division, Gulfstream Aerospace Corporation, and Grumman American Corps due to the troubling fact that the emergency beacon locator on the plane never transmitted its signal location after the crash impact, the exact function the device is designed for. After the rescue, helicopter pilot Dan Ellison received the Navy's Distinguished Flying Cross, and Balderson was awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Medal, the service's second highest non-combat award. In 2008, the Park Service gave John Dill a Lifetime Achievement Award, and after 46 years, he continued to work for Yosemite Search and Rescue, YOSAR. Like I said earlier, he might still be working there. I couldn't find an article that was very recent, but 2017 was the last one I saw. It said he was 74. I saw another one in 2010 that said he was 70. Like I said, a little bit of a difference. He's either 81 to 84. I'm guessing he's retired by now, but who knows? He might still give some insight to the search and rescue procedures when they need to. I know he did some presentations and speeches and stuff for a while there also. Like I said, maybe a person to do an episode about someday. Very interesting. Definitely has helped a lot of people when they were in difficult situations. This rescue in 1982 stands out because the odds of survival were so small. Odds of finding the plane even smaller, and when we did, Donnie was alive, Dill said. Donnie Priest went on to compete as a wrestler at Menlo Atherton High School, with no prosthetics on. Love that. Love that he didn't wear prosthetics. I don't think most people do when they wrestle if they are missing a limb, but maybe. I really haven't watched too much wrestling, and definitely not too many people that are missing limbs, so I'm not sure about that one. He won a lot of matches and also won a gold medal in the trick event at the 1993 World Disabled Water Ski Championships in France. Damn. Good for him. That's great. That's awesome. So he would have been, that's 11 years later? He would have been like 21, something like that. He earned his BS, Bachelor's in Science and Biology with a minor in Geology from Sacramento State University in California. He would go on to even learn to build and fit prosthetics for amputees. It's the most challenging and rewarding thing I've ever done, he said. It's carpentry, sculpting, automotive bodywork, pre-med biology, psychology, and physics all in one. In 2007, he returned to White Mountain with Dill, Chaz McQuarrie, and Jim Sano, a former Yosemite Ranger who was aboard the search helicopter that first spotted the plane. This is the first time Donnie set eyes on the peak. Trapped in the wreckage, he never saw the landscape around him. But if it unlocked any visceral memories or fears, he never showed a sign of it. This completes the circle, Priest said. For me, it brings closure. I can show through my life and actions how appreciative I am. So many people did so much and didn't get the accreditation they deserve. This is my way of saying thank you for what you've done. Priest has owned and now works at an orthotics and prosthetics, I'm surprised I got that, business that outfits new amputees. When I'm having trouble getting a patient fitted just right with a prosthetic, I think of Chaz and Ann flying through the snow, fighting through the snow for a whole day just to go over a mile. Or John staying up all night plotting radar data. Or Dan in a blind hover when he was almost out of fuel. That's what inspires me, he said in an interview. The bonds that I feel with my rescuers will last forever. They taught me what it means to risk everything to save others, he said. I can never pay them back, so I pay it forward. Donnie Priest, wow. Such an inspirational dude. Such a great story of perseverance and overcoming adversity. Something to look at and something that, I know technically kids, they overcome things better than adults, but still very inspirational. He lost both of his legs. He had to sit with his mother and his stepfather dead in a plane for 5 days. Something that could be very traumatic, and it seems like he was not highly affected about it, by it. He ended up doing a lot with his life and still does a lot to pay forward the help that was given to him in his time of need. With that, though, let's take the time to bounce over to our main marks. Okay, so for today's main marks, number 1, in 1982, after taking off from Mammoth Lake in California, Ronald Vaughn would make a terrible mistake and would disregard the revised flight plan directed to him by flight controllers. Number 2, flying the single-engine Grumman AA-5B Tiger through a disastrous and deadly storm would result in the plane crashing near the California-Nevada border. Number 3, with the emergency transmitter locator failing to go off upon impact, searchers had very little information to go on to find out exactly where the plane went down, and weather conditions would only hinder the search further. Number 4, MIT-educated search and rescue ranger John Dill would spend the entirety of the fourth night, Thursday night, manually plotting points on a map to try and understand where the plane could be, and he was spot on with his plots. And number 5, some additional information about the rescue I did not mention. First, the helicopter used to rescue Donnie was almost out of gas at the time of the rescue and was in a race against time before it started to lose power and altitude. Kind of skimmed over that one. I did mention it a tiny bit, but still. And secondly, the snow around the plane was cracked and splitting when the McQuarries performed the rescue, creating an immense avalanche danger, a danger that was put out of their minds to focus on saving little 10-year-old Donnie Priest. Now, with our main marks wrapped up, it's time to head into our final takeaways. Today, we took an adventure with an inspirational young boy named Donnie Priest. Donnie Priest. Donnie would survive a plane crash that involved himself, his mother, and his stepfather in January of 1982. We found that even when facing extreme adversity, perseverance can overcome all. Miraculously, after 5 days, searchers would find Donnie alive in the plane's fuselage. Donnie was almost dead and would lose both of his legs as a result of severe frostbite and hypothermia. But he never let his disability truly disable him in any way. Donnie went on to wrestle, water ski, ski on snow, and even become a prosthesist orthotist himself. Today, Donnie works fitting new amputees with prosthetic limbs. An inspiration, a tale of adversity, and the will to overcome. Donnie Priest proved time and time again that nearly anything is possible. With that, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today and listening to this incredible story. I hope that we can all take some inspiration from Donnie and do whatever it takes to overcome our own adversities. Thank you for continuing to rate and review the show. It's truly the most helpful thing you can do. Please go rate and review if you haven't. If you like the show, give me 5 stars. Tell me what you have done or what you do to prevail over adversities in your life. Besides that, be sure to check out social media. There is an Instagram and TikTok page. There is a Patreon page that will be releasing shorter, 15-minute episodes on starting soon. Now, let's look forward to next week. Next week, we will be headed to the last frontier, the great, gigantic state of Alaska. We will look into the murders of 2 Native Alaskan women and the monster behind their killings, Brian Smith. Just sentenced recently, Smith would receive 226 years total for his dirty doings. We will dive in and pull the details out of the shadows in a bloody, savage, and murder-filled episode next week. Once again, I want to say thank you for joining me today. I am your host, Travis Fenn, and this has been Beneath the Shadows. See you next week, my shadow people. Have a great one.
Wow.